Today, we are talking about a topic that is very taboo for most of the people. I mean, addiction. And my friend Tue Si has kindly accepted to share his story with us. Let's go.
We are here to talk about the itchy topic.
Itchy topic.
Personal topic. And that's why I feel so already very emotional and very proud that you accepted to come here to talk about addiction to crystal meth.
Yeah.
So, Tue Si here used to be addicted to crystal meth for 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? Can you tell us what this addiction, what this period of time did to you mentally and physically?
So actually, it was a bit over 2 years. I started in May 2017 in Canada, and I did it almost every day for up until I came to Vietnam. So August 2019. So that's actually 2 years. Wow. A little bit more than 2 years. Long story short, like crystal meth, what it does to you, it's like cocaine, maybe 100 to 1,000 times more intense.
Our viewers are not supposed to know what drugs are, so maybe you can...
If you don't know what is the effect of cocaine, please call my number.
It's in the description.
The first dose is always free. So the effect of cocaine. So how do we compare this? So in terms of release of dopamine, let's look at it on just a dopamine level. Yes. I think it's going to be much easier. So in terms of increase of dopamine, a coffee is about 5 times the increase of dopamine, I think, if I don't quote me on those things. Mm-hmm. Sex is about 100 times. I think cocaine is about 250 times. Crystal meth is 1,000 times.
So it's very addictive.
It's very, very addictive. And so the effect, and so the way that I'm seeing it now, 3 years into recovery, is basically what happened in hindsight is I think we all keep this fake lid on our emotions. We all say like, oh, we're suppressing our emotions, we're depressing our emotions, all the bad things about us, we don't talk about it, But so when you put something in your body that chemically imbalances you, that lid, the way I see it, is just a little little layer that keeps your emotions in check. And so what it does is just like destroys the whole thing. So you come out, that I know you don't know about cocaine, but the bravery that you have when you're on drugs, on alcohol and things like this, you multiply this by 1,000. And so basically what it did, it was like, it ushered out all the visceral, everything that I was like unfiltered, totally raw, in all its I would say bad forms.
Like a fake superhero.
It's a fake superhero, but we're very used to express our good sides. We're very good at presenting our good side. But when you have no control over your bad side and it comes out, it doesn't look very good. It looks very intense. It looks very just very raw. Yeah. And then in a more poetic way to say it, crystal meth for me was inviting the devil in my life. Wow. Basically. It was just so bad. And that's only in hindsight. When you're in it and it's fun and it's good and it's like you don't see an end to it. But you
need to always feed that animal that you wakes up inside of you to do more. Right?
When we talk about addiction, there is no one model fits all. There is no one solution fits all. There is only my experience that I can just relate to the audience and the way that I've handled it. Mm-hmm. So everything that I'm saying is not a general rule of how to conduct your life. I grew up an Asian kid in Paris. My mom passed when I was 6 years old. And in that model, and I'm 38 at this point, at the time of the interview, thank you very much. That's crystal meth for you. Oops. But so when at that time when my mom passed, that was 32 years ago, the general consensus was like, when someone important in your life passed, you don't have any type of mental health awareness to it. You don't go see a therapist or anything like this. At that time, France didn't know anything about this, just like most countries. And it was literally my very, very, very strict Asian father telling us, do not mention this to anyone, because my mom, unfortunately, the way she passed was very problematic. She took her life. And so in the Vietnamese community, it wasn't seen as very good already. And he was like, we don't talk about this. And then 1 week, 2 weeks after this whole thing happened, you have to go back to school and act like everything is okay. And hear that everybody tells you, like, your mom loves you, like, you should know that, like, your mom loves you. And all you have inside is this resentment, this intense resentment. And so this became like this toxic pattern of like resentment, guilt, and all those things that was non-expressed. Basically, all of this bottled up with a really bad childhood, with a very strict father, growing up very insecure at the end of the day, because being Asian in France 30 years ago was not like...
Right.
Was not.
You got the Oscar.
Yes. Thank you for everything, everywhere, all at once. But it wasn't like, when you're a kid growing and then you go into teenagehood and you want to be seen, you want to exist, and you're only existing through the bad joke about the size of your penis, not being a man in itself. Yeah, very stereotypical, and not being seen, and then you want to belong, and you have a fear of abandonment. The female presence in your life is complicated. Like every girl that came into my life was really complicated, because as soon as they would come very close, I would run away, but I would want them in my life. So I was this very toxic guy. Sorry to all my ex-girlfriends. And so this culminated in a pattern of me trying to escape through pleasure, any type of pleasure, any type of dopamine chasing. It was like, sex, food, and all those things. And so to come back to crystal meth is the highest release of dopamine that it can be. And for me, the day I tried, when they say, like, there is some drugs out there, you try them the first time and you're hooked. That was it. Because it was just like inviting someone inside of me that would just go, hey, what you felt and you didn't understand your whole life, I have an answer to it. I'm just going to disappear. Like, and it's like, for a lazy, pleasure-seeking type of behavior person that I was, I didn't have to do any work. I just had to smoke that. And then suddenly I would come out raw and like intense, and like people would see me. And then that's only in hindsight I'm like, yeah, I invited the devil obviously in my life. And yeah, it was pretty intense. It was a good explosion.
And on a physical level, did it also affect you?
So the drugs in itself, yes. So there is always a component of like when you take a certain chemical for that long, especially street chemicals, you don't know what's inside. There is always like, your liver is going to get shot. So like I have like, skin problems and things like this because I'm still like detoxifying my liver. Let me rephrase this. The chemical intoxication is not the biggest problem. Most of the people that have health problems on those type of drugs or hard drugs or being drug addict, it's usually because of the lack of food, the lack of sleep, and the lack of water. Because you go for 3 days and then you don't eat, you don't sleep, you don't eat. I say that you don't drink, and yeah,
it affects your body in the long run.
It affects your body in the long run. You don't care for yourself anymore. So a lot of people lose their teeth and those things, and because you don't shower, you don't sleep, then suddenly your immune system shuts down. And then very risky behaviors too when you do those type of drugs. So
I'm glad you bring this out, because sometimes when you're young, like you were, like bad people will introduce something to you and you'll try. So I'm very grateful that you bring all this like negative physical aspects that can affect you if you go on that path. Yeah. So it's something that really, thank you for. It's not sexy, but it's real. You guys learn. One thing I wanted to ask is, like, when we prepared this interview, you were telling me, you corrected me. I said, oh, but you've been clean now for what, 3 years?
Yes.
About 3 years?
Yes.
And so, you healed. And you're like, no, I'm still healing from it. Like, how important it is, like, when you overcome addiction, to keep talking about it in a present time.
In general, and this is not just related to drug addiction, or if we look at at addiction on a broader spectrum, the general consensus and rule is, don't believe anyone that says that they're healed. We're all healing. It's a consistency process. It's a habit thing. And so for me, it's like, and I follow the Russell Brand's version of the 12 Steps program. And within this, like, in the addiction lingo, you're never healed. You're healing. You're recovering. And because it can happen anytime. Because for me, it was based on a lack of self-love or an incapacity of loving myself, and never showing up for myself. And those can happen again, depending on the circumstances. So you can only practice showing up for yourself. You can only practice self-love, and that's a daily thing. You can't just say I'm done and then you go back drinking and you go back into bad habits. It's not how it happens. And so I'm being very careful on how I publicly talk about it, because there is obviously when I say I've been clean for 3 years, for example, I try to reframe it as no, I'm healing for the past 3 years, because there is things that happens in the private sphere that can only remain in the private sphere. But in the public thing, I must say, I'm still recovering. I'm still healing. And what I say to the people, that my support system or things like this can be different, but it's within that path of healing.
To start this path of healing, do you think we need to reach that rock bottom, or did you have a dead click? How did it work for you? You realize okay, I need help. I need to get out of this. I need to become somebody else, a better person.
So I think the yes, we talk a lot about the rock bottom. I think in French is the déclic, but the rock bottom sounds much more sexy in English, because it really represents that rock bottom where, and literally I think the choice that you have to make at that point is to let go of your ego, because it's very ego driven. And I'm I do a lot of things about dopamine management, but I'm also doing a lot of things about ego management, because ego is the enemy at the end of the day. But we can talk about this another time. When you're at rock bottom, you have to make the choice to let go of your ego, and then you have only two choices: life through self-love or death. That's it. When you're at rock bottom, that's the only choice that are given to you. It's are you going to give up all the way? And then if you've given up, then just fucking die. Just that's it. That's the only way. But then if you're not willing to die, then there is only one way up. And that's, up. Yeah, there's only one way out of rock bottom, and it's up. And so and then it can happen multiple times. But every time, it's always this act for me of okay, I have a choice now. Do I die in the eye of society, in life, in physically, in everything? Or do I, accept that, something is triggering my ego, there is something, and I have to let go of that. And then just one step at a time, swim back up. Yeah.
There are two things I really admire about you. One, that you showed up and you talk about this problem.
Yeah.
And second is that once you started your recovery, you were not followed by a doctor. You did all by yourself. Yeah. How?
All by myself. All by myself. I don't need anybody in life. I am a man that just wants to be by myself. No, it's no. It's not true at all. When I say this is okay. So it's never by yourself. Most of the people that are drug addicted is they try to solve things by themselves, but it's never like this. And I really want to make it clear that there is alternative paths out there, and I'm not recommending anything, but there is different paths for everything. Seeing a doctor is not the only path, but you have to be surrounded by people. You have to have a support system. I would not be here today if I wasn't surrounded by any type of support system. And for me, the model that I've followed was the 12 steps again. So there's the 12 steps for Alcoholic Anonymous. And so I followed the Russell Brand. Russell Brand, the comedian? Mm-hmm. The English guy, yeah. So guy was his book, he has a book called Recovery, about his own battle with addiction, and where it was very refreshing for me because he put all his addiction to the same level. So heroin was on the same level than chocolate, than sex, than porn, than anything was just on the same level. And the approach to it was the same through the 12 steps. But the problem that I had with the 12 steps at that time is I wasn't in touch with my spirituality. And the 12 step is very, very God heavy. You have to believe in a higher power. You have to let go to the higher power. You have to. And so the way that he reframed it in his book, he changed every mention of spirituality to you're fucked up. Agree that you're fucked up. Are you going to unfuck yourself? And I was okay, this talks to me a lot more. So I didn't go through the normal path of the 12 step, but I still did this 12 step in that version, what resonated to me. I didn't go to therapy, for example, but I have a Reiki therapist today. So I did and it's I've experimented enough to have my own systems in place. But just to answer your question straight is it's not an alone battle. The more you stay alone, and the more you're at rock bottom. The first step of the program is accept that you won't fix your problem alone. And so it's very important to always reframe that. Like,
So you had different methods. Just good, you had different methods.
different method, yes.
Overcome addiction, but also get to know yourself better. That seems like something that you discover on the way. You're mentioning like self-love, spirituality, God or the universe energy. So it's something like, it seems like thanks to this experience, you learned more about yourself. You became stronger.
Yeah.
Did you?
I think so. I think I had a curious nature to start with. And I had to beat my own insecurities of like, you know, like a lot of people, there is plenty of answers everywhere. There's plenty of methods of life everywhere. I would recommend for people to choose whichever methods resonate to their own intuition. And then, but the first step of actually opening that first book or opening that first YouTube video or going to see the therapist or going to see the doctor is actually the most daunting step, because that's where you have to beat your own fear. Because for me, for example, I pretended a lot to like know everything about everything. Like I wouldn't read books because I was so scared that in that book it was written that I was exactly what my father described me to be, which is never enough, just a piece of shit, just like not being to the level that he expected. And I was like, in my head, I was convinced that you know, that voice that goes like, you're not enough. I was convinced that I was never going to be enough. That's why my mom left and things like this. And so I knew there was an answer. I knew that within me that I was like a curious little kid, but I couldn't get myself to open that book. And then once you open the book, usually, yeah, you're a piece of shit, but there is solutions to it. Like you've developed. That's not the end of it.
It's okay.
Just go to the next chapters, and there's going to be solutions. But no, the truth in itself doesn't have to be beautiful. I was a piece of shit, and I had to accept that I was a piece of shit. But I was like, okay, well, there's ways to get out of it.
There's hope.
Yeah. There is soap. You don't have to smell like shit. No. Yeah, there's soap.
Good one. Tue Si, what would be your one piece of advice to somebody who's struggling with addiction, generally speaking?
This is a hard topic. It's a very hard topic, and I do not know if there is one advice to give. I think it's a very good question.
Yeah.
I think, let me reframe, if I may, because the questions that I get asked the most for the past 3 years is not from drug addict that ask me, hey, how can I do? What can I do? Give me advice. Because they don't have, you have to have that deeper realization that you want to get out of it. You have to be at rock bottom for advice to stick. So whatever advice I'm going to give it's not going to be very useful yet. But the question that I get the most is actually from people close to someone that is drug addicted. They come to me very often and they go, how can I help? I don't know what to do. And so I would love to be able to answer that question instead of the other.
Please. So how can you help somebody who is addicted?
And so for me, this goes with, which is one of my core values, compassion. I try to practice compassion as much as I can. And so compassion for me, the way I see it is being able to listen to someone until he's finished and not say anything. And just go like, yeah, that's a fucked up story. Oh yeah, that's pretty shitty, bro. And you give the person space to exist. Give the person space to express whatever he's trying to express all the way until the end. Because, you know, sometimes you're angry at something and you think there is that, you don't know what that is. It's boiling inside of you. And you start talking to your partner about it and you go, actually, that was nothing. Just because you had the space to like actually express it. And so what I recommend for everybody that has someone that is dear to them, that has some type of drug addiction, is not to try to fix the problem. There is no problems to be fixed until the person realizes that there is a problem first. But to be compassionate and to listen, to give them the space to express, even if it's coming out as childish, as intense, as evilish or anything. If you love that person and you want their healing, give them the space for them to understand the words that comes out of their mouth and the emotions that they're feeling in that moment. And so that's my number one advice on that.
That's very precious. I have another question. It's a bit actually tricky. I mean, you describe it as a very painful experience, but at the same time, like you learn a lot and you're still learning, you're still healing. Are you somewhere grateful for what happened to you?
You asked me that question before.
Yeah, when we were preparing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people who experience like an accident or a big change in their life, disease,
Yeah.
somehow they come to realize that, oh, I'm actually grateful because thanks to this bad thing, I realized some other positive stuff.
Like, I think being able to be grateful in general is a good thing. I think very honest, I want to make a joke, but I was going to say, no, I miss it every day. You know what? In the toilet, I did a little line. But it's just, no. I obviously today, and this is how I would frame it. Today, I don't regret going through it because I am still healing, but I think I've reached enough milestone to know that the knowledge that I've gained about myself, that is not going to disappear. There is very little external event that can happen in my life today. And I've listed them out. And on top is the death of my father. It's going to be very, very, very intense. Those are the key moments that I'm projecting myself to that would do such damage emotionally that would potentially make me not being able to show up for myself. But those events are very little these days. Back in the days, guys, it was like my girlfriend didn't text me back, I would just hurt myself. You know, like I was very toxic. It was just emotionally non-regulated. And so today, I don't have a regret because I'm here today talking to you. I understand I have those mental models to learn from my lessons, to take responsibility. You would have asked me that question 4 years ago, I would be like, fuck, I wish I didn't touch this shit. You know, I wouldn't have said that. I would have felt it. But what would have come out of my mouth was like, no, I can live this life. I can be a high functioning addict. I can make money. I can be burned out and just do more. And then I can like have the most amazing sex and whatever. I don't need the healing. But deep inside, I would be like, fuck, why did I do it? You know, like that's my.
No, I think, there is a difference between what we say to others and what is inside. And you're very aware. Now you seem very connected to yourself. And the way we met actually is because you are yourself a coach. You have a spiritual podcast creators in Vietnam. And I know you always try like different things. Lately, you're doing ice bath.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about this practice, what it can bring in terms of dopamine as well, happiness, and different type of...
Yes. So the only reason why I'm doing ice bath is because I wanted to have that punchline as a coach that goes from ice to ice. From grams of ice to kilos of ice. Leveling up the game. Never stop. Yeah, just for the joke, guys, crystal meth is also called ice. And so in my mind, every time I do an ice bath, I go like, and I call my ice dealer. I go, can I get 50 kilos of ice, please? I convert it to grams. I go, can I get, is it 500 grams, 50 kilos? No, wait, it's even more. It's like, can I get 50,000 grams? No, so the reason why, and this is going to be the overarching, I think, theme for me, and that's what I try to tell people. First, I'm not really a coach anymore. I think there was an intense desire when you learn something new to teach it back, and it's part of the learning process anyway. And the reason why I became a coach was because everybody was like, hey, you should be a coach. You should be a coach. You speak so well about it. You should be a coach. And I was like, still in my recovery. And I was like, okay, why not? Like, you know, we're in COVID. There was still intense pressure about me not making money. You know, I came from like, you know, managing a company in Canada, having an okay salary, and then just telling people, I'm in Vietnam, I'm a drug addict, and I'm not working. And people will be like, what are you doing? And there's the intense money pressure and whatever. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to be a coach. At that time, I used, and I'm still like a big promoter of the tool Notion, where like I created this life operating system through it, and that really helped me implement discipline. And but as I was going, I was like, I can't take money from people for helping them through their emotions. And so at the same time, I was like, but I want to bring awareness to those things. And so that's the reason why I started coaching, but I started the podcast at the same time. The podcast is non-monetized. The coaching was monetized. And after taking like a few sessions, I was like, I can't do it. But then I went into business consulting and I was no problem. And business coaching to no problem, give me your money. But the emotional aspect to it was like, I get so involved emotionally. I'm very sensitive. And I was like, but what was the ice bath? Yeah, sorry. Go back to the ice, please. to the ice. And so the reason why long story short, I want to be an expert at ice bathing so I can become an ice dealer. And I can now sell ice. So it's going to be the pun of the whole interview. No. So there is a few scientifically, and we talked about dopamine at the beginning of the interview. So I work a lot on ego management and dopamine regulation. And so the rule of the scientific rules about all of this is the brain chemically wants to be balanced in that neutral zone. Like, that's why you can whether be a monk in the mountain and being Zen and you're chemically balanced. But for every time that you get dopamine, the brain has to bring it back down to level. And so that's why when you get high, you have to come down. And so the more you experience pleasure, the more the brain is going to give you pain to balance it back out chemically. That's how it is. For every high that you have in life, you'll have a low. For every, for every extra beer and extra shots you got a few more minutes of hangover. It's just mentally and how it does it to your brain. It's it's going to give you back that pain tenfold, whatever amount of shots you do, or line of cocaine or crystal meth. And so if you look at it on a dopamine level of crystal meth, I really had to be hyper focused on okay, where are the dopamine coming? And then so the rule is exactly reverse. If you go into pleasure and it gives you pain, then if you lean into the pain, then it will give you dopamine in return. And so that's why a lot of people get the runner's high. After a good session of the gym, you get a little bit high. After everything that is fucking annoying that you do, like meditation, breath work, or ice bathing, you get a release of dopamine. And so for me, it's really about those. I look at it on a daily basis, where if I get my mini release of dopamine, I don't get to the point where at the end of the month I need to have that huge fucking party or whatever. I can manage it throughout the day. And so the trifecta for me has been actually the duo, because I don't do much meditation no more, but I do a lot of breath work and ice bath. And again, it's all about experimenting. I really recommend people to experiment. There is not just one way to do things. At the beginning of my recovery, I was meditating 45 minutes in the morning, 45 minutes at night, and it was fucking annoying. I wanted to do ice bath since then, but the shower was coming out at 24 degrees in Vietnam, And then I found the tub and I was like, let's do it. And so it's based on Wim Hof methodology, guys. Breath work and then cold therapy. And so the cold in itself, the pain and the pain of the cold will make you release dopamine. And then the second reason why I do it too is, there's multiple reasons. I'll give you two more. Mental resilience. Because when you have to do something that you don't want to do and you get to it and you see the other side of the mountain on a daily basis, oh fuck, it's going to be cold, and then you go in, it's it's annoying, and then you calm down and you do this every day, it's your mental resilience goes up. So I've been doing it for a month and a half, so I don't know, maybe in 2 months I'll be done with it. But I'm experimenting. It seems like I like this. I like extreme stuff. That's why I went for crystal meth and not the Lulu cocaine, Lulu kids game cocaine. But I like the intense stuff. In the season of my life, I want to be able to have efficient mindfulness in less than 30 minutes because I have to go to work. I'm back at work now. I'm the COO for a company and I have to be really focused on that. I can't afford to do 45 minutes of meditation or I'm within the routines, and for my mental health and things, I go, okay, 20 minutes of breath work. No, 10 minutes, and 10 minutes is perfect.
Every day.
Every day. And yeah, it's pretty painful. And then the third thing, and it's mostly for me, and I've been practicing this for the past 3 years, is I have a fear of abandonment. Obviously, 6 years old, you lose your mom, you don't get followed about this, you don't get awareness on this, you're not the right tools. Huge fear of abandonment. And I realized not too long ago is if I consistently show up for myself, then nobody can abandon me anymore. I'm here for me. And before that, I had a lack of self-love And so I was like, I was never enough for myself. But I came to a point where I'm like, in my practice, in this season of my life, I can go, hey, I've been showing up for myself for the past 3 years. I'm still healing, but I like me. I love me. Like, you know, I'm okay with myself. That voice that says that I'm not enough is not there consistently anymore. But there is more so, okay, what is the next point of experiment? How can I know more about myself? How far can I push bearable pain? How can I, like, you know, make jokes about my addiction? How can I become an ice dealer? And so all of this makes me manage my fear of abandonment much better.
Wow. And according to you, what can we do daily to become a better person?
There's so many things, guys. So many things. But I would say, and I'm a coach about this apparently, so please listen to me. And if you want a session with me, it's only 55. No, I'm kidding. So what I would recommend, so the basis of my coaching actually, and how I set up my work is action creates information. That information needs to be documented on a daily basis. That documentation needs to be reviewed on a cycle, usually on a weekly, monthly cycle. And then those reviews need to be realigned to a bigger vision. So that's the model that I'm following. So that in the mental health case, because you can apply it to work and like mental health. When I say actions creates information, it's like everything that I'm doing, my habits and things like this needs to be documented. All the emotions that I have throughout the day needs to be documented. So journaling. So then the one thing that you can do every day that can really, really help your life, journaling. Document everything that has happened. And it doesn't have to be like on a fucking live. Like, I don't have time to, I'm actually journaling right now. I'm like writing, keep talking. But it's like, at the end of the day, I sit down with myself and I have those prompts. I have always the same prompts. It's like 3 wins of the day, 3 things that I could have improved on, 3 things that I've learned, or up to 3 things that I've learned. And then I base my mental models on a book called The 4 Agreements. I don't know if you read that book. So the 4 Agreements it's from the old ancient Toltec Mexican like type of culture. And it's a very beautiful book, very small to read, but the 4 Agreements are: be impeccable with your words. Don't take anything personally. Don't assume anything. And always try your best. And so at the end of the day, I always ask myself those 4 questions like, was I impeccable with my words? Did I assume anything? Did I take anything personally? And did I try my best?
Every day.
Every day. And then I try to journal about it. And I journal about it.
How long it takes you to journal?
Usually now it takes me about 20 minutes by top to bottom, like to just sit down with myself. And so like, you know, I do like 45 minutes in the morning with my routines and then 15, 20 minutes at night. And I would always recommend, if you don't have 1 hour per day for yourself, then do crystal meth.
And come on the show.
Or come on the show after. But you should be able to like, you know. Like,
find time for yourself to heal on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, Tue Si.
Thank you.
Your openness, your kindness, wisdom also, and knowledge from the eyes. I wish you a lot of success in your new profession as ice
dealer.
You were great. Come here.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you in another episode. Bye.
Thank you.